Well, hi everyone. I'm John Retlin with a review of two horror movies that I just watched, Sea Fever and Color Out of Space. Both these movies are cheap on Amazon, $2.99. Both are pretty entertaining, one much more than the other, and like any multi-movie review that I do, there will be spoilers throughout, so let's start with Sea Fever. It's set in Ireland, there's a fishing boat with a fishing crew, which is what you would want on a fishing boat. You wouldn't want astronauts on there because it's definitely not a space expedition, as much as I would like to see fishing in space. Also, there is a student by the name of Siobhan who's a redhead, and naturally, being set in Ireland, I guess they are suspicious. They are superstitious about bringing a redhead onto their crew. Oh god, they don't want their catch to be destroyed. Nope, they don't have to worry about a redhead student. They have to worry about going into a zone that they shouldn't be in, seeing life that they didn't expect to see in the sea. Yes, a lot of sea puns here. Oh, and there's also a deep sea squid that is putting parasites into them. And yeah, a lot of bad shit starts to go down, especially about 40 minutes into this. Now, I can't necessarily say that this movie is absolutely great, but it was better than I expected, because when I first read the description, I'm like, okay, this isn't necessarily something that I'm going to enjoy. In fact, I was pretty certain I was going to hate it, but then I thought I was going to hate Underwater, and I actually ended up enjoying that. Now, I enjoyed Underwater more than this one, but this one did have some atmospheric shots. It mostly took place on the fishing boat or underwater, and basically was centered around, hey, how can this crew survive this, this unknown threat? I mean, they know that it's a squid, but they don't know what kind of squid it is, and why are these parasites infesting people? How is this happening? How can they kill them? How can they stop the crew from dying? Like one character has his eyeballs burst out of his skull because the parasites get into him. That was some pretty cool shit. And then another one dies. Basically, everybody dies, and pretty much you only have like one survivor. But what's nice about this movie is it also ties back to like this story about this woman that was an immortal that sacrificed herself to the sea to basically save people. And that kind of ties into the ending and everything. So Siobhan basically wants to save the creature, not necessarily keep it for study, but save it and put it back where it, from whence it came, and not kill it because she appreciates sea life. But also she might be going slightly insane because she wants to also keep the crew on the boat because she doesn't want them to infect anyone else. And yeah, it's kind of cliche. A lot of the characters are very one-dimensional, but nobody's particularly bad acting in this movie. Also, Connie Nielsen is in this. Connie Nielsen is 55 years old and looks 35. She looks goddamn amazing. Doug Ray Scott's also in this. And yes, is it a great movie? No. But is it entertaining? Yes. And it's slow burn, but it does have a pretty decent payoff. It isn't a great flick by any stretch of the imagination, but it does end with Siobhan basically sacrificing herself by, swimming towards a squid. And that's pretty much the end of the movie. One character survives, maybe a couple other characters survive, and we just don't fucking see them because some characters just basically fucking vanish. But honestly, not that bad. More positives than negatives. Definitely a C+. So, let's move on to Color Out of Space, which, holy shit, this is a movie that, while I'm going to spoil some things, this is a movie you absolutely need to see without knowing a ton. So I will say this. This is what it involves without spoilers at first. It's firstly directed by the director of Hardware, and if you've seen Hardware, it was really silly. Also, it's based on the short story by H.P. Lovecraft, thankfully without the racism that H.P. Lovecraft, had in his head. That's toxic. Don't be fucking racist, people. What the hell? Nicolas Cage is in this as a family man that has a farm with his wife, Jolie Richardson. That's played by Jolie Richardson. And you also have Tommy Chong, who's a hippie that's living in the woods that believes conspiracy theories. Talk about typecasting. Tommy Chong's actually pretty cool, but yeah, playing a guy that smokes a lot of weed. Yeah, I guess he really didn't have to try too hard to do this. Also, Madeline Arthur is the daughter, Lavinia, and she is, she basically has to help try and, keep her family together when this meteorite crashes down and it gives out this weird pink glow, and it's very obvious it's infecting the farmland, it's infecting the water, it's doing a whole bunch of shit. And it basically reminds me of a lot of, the sci-fi body horror movies that were actually pretty good in the 70s and 80s. And it was just really entertaining. Nicolas Cage absolutely became unglued about two-thirds in, well, especially after about halfway in. But my God, he was just alternating between being a great family dad and going absolutely batshit insane. This is peak Nicolas Cage in the sense that the movie is way more entertaining than it deserves to be. and it has any right to be, but it is so goddamn good. It's so fucking good. I was really surprised by how much I like this. Now, is it a perfect movie? No. Is it a good movie? No, but it is very much a throwback to those movies I talked about before, and it's just really, really fun. Now, as far as other spoilers and stuff like that, there's a subplot with this character Ward, played by Elliot Knight, and he is basically doing he's trying to study the water contamination, because there's another subplot with the mayor creating this water treatment plant that may be infecting the water. Gee, government agency infecting the water, affecting the town people. I can't fucking imagine that ever happening in real life. But it's typical stuff. It actually kind of reminded me also of the movie Mutant. You remember Mutant? That was actually pretty fun as well. This one had a bigger budget. Now, there were times where they had some special effects. Like, you had these alien bugs that didn't look all that great. But the pink glowing stuff that came from the meteorite that eventually sank into the ground and then somehow ended up in the well, because that's where it should be. It shouldn't be in a hole in the ground right there. It should be in another hole in the ground on the property. Bit odd. But also, it was just really entertaining because Nicolas Cage turned it up to 11 and just went absolutely crazy. He alternated between yelling, chewing on tomatoes and throwing them in the goddamn trash and slam dunking them, and it was great. Jolie Richardson plays his wife, who is suffering from cancer. I mean, she's being treated for it, but also she's trying to maintain her job as being some kind of telecommunications. I think it's like doing some kind of like real estate stuff remotely. And there's a younger brother and then a really young brother who ends up getting taken. Actually, at one point early on in the movie, before the meteorite actually crashed, the meteorite has crashed, but nothing bad's happened. Nicolas Cage says, because they have alpacas on the farm, says, if you don't mind, it's time to milk the alpacas. And I don't know why that line made me laugh so damn much, but it did. Because it's Nicolas Cage having a whole bunch of fun. Because he's Nicolas Cage and he just likes to have fun. Whew. It interferes with electronics and cell phones and stuff like that. And everything basically cuts off the infected area from the world. Despite the fact that at one point, Ward and a sheriff managed to get to the area without being blocked off. So it obviously wasn't that strong of a field, and their phone worked fine, and also the car worked just fine. The sheriff's car worked just fine. All kind of shit goes down. Nicolas Cage, his scenery chewing, and this is so fucking hilarious. The tomato stuff that I talked about earlier, him seeing his wife and young son fused together, like literally they were fused together by this alien laser stuff, and now it's like all body horror and stuff like that. It was just so funny. Eventually it just mutates the alpacas. He has to go shoot them, which is just really, really fun. A nice throwback. He's just covered in blood. He's like screaming as he's shooting them. I just don't know why that was so funny. And then the mother, fused with the youngest son, tries to infect the daughter, and then he ends up shooting them, despite the fact that he put the daughter in there originally to be fed. It's like, feed your mother, which, another line, it was so so fucking hilarious. You guys gotta watch this movie. It's way better than I thought. Now, this is by no means should this be as fun as it is. It just really, really is. Eventually, everybody essentially dies except for Ward. He gets locked in the basement. Even Lavinia, after her dad gets shot, basically she's infected by all this and everything, and basically we get glimpses of the alien world, and then she gets zapped up, and then Ward survives and talks about how very few people remember the strange days. He won't drink the water. And yeah, we have all this stuff we still have all this stuff going on. A lot of unanswered questions, but you know what? I didn't mind, because I was so entertained by Nicolas Cage's performance and the bonkers shit and the body horror stuff. So I highly recommend this. Gets a goddamn A. It may end up in my top 10 of the year. I don't know why I was so entertained, but it was. Agree, disagree what I said? Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.